Hello, hello. Welcome to this episode of the Rogers Radio Podcast. It's just me today. It's been a while since I've been on here just talking to you all, and I thought I'd come on and give an update of kind of what's been going on. I know the last time I was on here by myself, I gave an update about how I was struggling, I wasn't sticking to my goals, and first I want to really send some appreciation to everyone that reached out to me and cheered me on and said, I got this, because I have used this last month to really get my shit together and to kind of refocus, and I've learned a lot, so I thought I would come on and talk to you about it. And it just so happens that I am recording today on my 7th year anniversary with Rogers Heating and Cooling, which is so wild. I told Joey this is the longest job I've ever had, and he said, "Oh, don't talk like that," and got a little scared. He's like, "Don't say that." And I said, "But it is. It is the longest job that I've ever had, the longest place I've ever been employed, and it makes me think back to where I was when I began this journey. I have been journaling for the last 3 years, so not 7 years, but for the last 3 years, every day. And so if you're interested, I'm not like a huge journaler where I'll have pages and pages of stuff. This journal's called One Line a Day, and you can get it on Amazon, and it's 5 years. So it'll track 5 years. And you just put like a couple lines a day, 1 line a day of just kind of what happened. And I've been doing that for the last 3 years. And so then every day when I go in, I can see what happened 2 years ago, 3 years ago. This is my 4th year. So I can look back 3 years and say, oh my gosh, I was really struggling with that 3 years ago. Or, oh my gosh, we were celebrating this 3 years ago. Can't believe it's been that long. And it really makes you refocus and shift your thinking too, where it's like, wow, I've come a long way, and you can really be proud of yourself. Because I have a tendency to be really, really hard on myself. And I am realizing that I need to lighten up a little more and be proud of myself. So I wanted to kind of talk to you a bit today. I know that I said that I wanted to read a book a month at the beginning of the year, and I didn't stick to that. But I have read 3 books so far this year, and I kind of wanted to share what those books were. So maybe you want to read them, or kind of the highlights from that. And although I was being so hard on myself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like why can I not just read a book a month? Or like, why am I not sticking to this goal? But I realized something. It may take me longer to read a book, but I tend to read one and then take some time off from reading. And I realized it's because I'm really trying to read to implement. So I read a book and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to focus on implementing what I just learned, because you can read all these books, but if you're not implementing things that you learned, what's the point, right? So I brought the 3 books that I have read this year, and I want to talk about them. So the first book I read is Atomic Habits. So it's Atomic Habits by James Clear, and it's a New York Times bestseller, Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results. I started the year with this. It took me a while to read this one, but I've really implemented a lot of tactics from this. I highly recommend it to really form small habits in your life to help you get to where you want to be. So the main takeaway from this book for me was, if you improve yourself 1% every day, you'll be 365% better by the end of the year. Really cool to think about. Like 1%, can you change 1% of something every day to get to the goals that you want to achieve? And then shifting your mindset to think about, and I know I've talked about this on a previous podcast, but it just sticks with me a lot, because if you want to form a new habit, or you want to stop something, it's easy to, like, if someone brings you a candy bar, they're like, hey, would you like this candy bar? And you're like, oh no, I'm trying to lose weight. By saying that word, trying to lose weight, they say that you haven't convinced yourself yet. So instead of saying, oh, I'm trying to, you need to say something like, oh, I am eating healthier now. Because I am eating healthier now is convincing yourself in your mind that you are trying to be a healthier version of yourself. So very good book. Highly recommended if you're trying to make tiny changes in your life. And then the second book that I read, which is probably the most impactful book that I've read in a very, very long time, is Build an Empire, How to Have It All by Elena Cardone. This is Grant Cardone's wife. You hear us talk about Grant Cardone in the 10X community a lot. We look up to them greatly, and Elena Cardone is such an inspiration to me. I read this book and I took some time off from reading because it just hit me that hard. So everyone knows me and Joey work together, we're married, and a lot of people ask, how do you work with your significant other? How do you work with your husband every day? What is that like? And I always tell them that it really is great. It definitely has its challenges at times, but there's no one else I'd rather be doing this with and on this journey with. And she talks a lot about what it's like to be the wife of someone, he's a billionaire, so she is the wife of a billionaire, and what that's like and how they structure their lives and how you can build an empire and how it's okay to be a supportive wife in this day and age and how you can really empower the people around you. And it hit me so hard because society today can tell you all kinds of things and we're strong women and we can do it all, but ultimately, we can't do it all as one person. We can do it all by bringing in others and having others around us and supporting those around us. So highly recommend this for anyone, whether you're in business or not. It's a really great book, and it taught me a lot about marriage and how to support those around me. So great book. And then the third book I've read this year is The Richest Man in Babylon. It's the original edition, George Clason, and it says over 4 million copies sold. It's like a very small book. I thought I would get through it really fast, you guys. It's 89 pages, but it was a harder book for me to read because there's a lot in here, and it was very impactful for me because it changes your mindset on how you think of money and how you think you can grow your wealth. And it goes through how a man, the richest man in Babylon, coached others on how to become rich and wealthy. And it's by changing certain habits in your life and cutting certain things out and how to save money. This is great for anyone. It has me rethinking things and how, just for instance, if you get your paycheck and you just put $100 of that paycheck to the side every month and cut out something, or whether it's $20 or whatever, like if you can only put $5 to the side a week and say, instead of going to Starbucks this week, I'm going to put that money into a separate account, how much it can grow and how much it can change your mindset. And having the mindset of not being broke, like, oh, I'm so broke or I have no money, and asking yourself, how can I get more money and still do the same thing that I'm doing today, just refocus on where I spend my money. Great, great book. So those are my 3. That's what I learned from those, and I will pick out my next 3. And if you want to hear about it, I'll be happy to share that with you. And a lot of this is, I want to hear from you. I want to know what you want to hear more of. Haven't you loved the previous podcasts that we've done in the last couple of months? They've been amazing. It's been so cool to get to know everyone that's been on, and I want to continue doing that, but I'd love to hear from you on who you want to hear and who you want to come on. So comment on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you listen to this or see this, or if you see us in the community. The amount of people that loved Kenny's podcast, the 100th episode. I have so many people coming up to me in the community talking about, oh my gosh, it was so cool to see Kenny in front of the camera. So there you go, Kenny. You got to get in front of it more often. And the amount of you that come up to me and talk to me about the podcast, I seriously love you guys so much. And I truly mean it when I say I love doing this. And I'm not ashamed to say that, right? In the beginning, I'm like, oh my gosh, is it kind of like, am I all about myself if I'm like, I really love doing this? But I've gotten to the point where it's like, no, truly, I love doing this. So I want to continue bringing you the content that you want to see and you want to hear, because I want to continue growing it. So any recommendations you have, anyone that you want to see on the podcast, anything you want me to talk about on the podcast, I'm happy to do it. I know that a lot of you that come up to me in public talk about certain things that you want to hear. And one conversation I had recently was, I was talking to a local business owner, and he was talking about listening to the podcast and how he listens to it. And he's like, I hear you always saying everyone watching, like how many people watch it? And I'm like, it's crazy, right? And so shout out to you all that are listening, because I always talk about the ones that are watching. But he said that he loved hearing other business owners and kind of what their struggles were, because it makes you realize that we all have struggles and it's not always great, and how relatable we can all be to each other. And that stuck with me. And like I said in the beginning, like I can really be hard on myself. And a struggle that I have had over this year and many years, when you're a business owner or you are in your life, what is one common thing you always hear about? You hear about you need to get, like, if you asked someone you look up to, a leader you look up to, like, what is your number one piece of advice you have for me? Many of them will say, get a mentor. And I have heard that so many times. And how overwhelming is that sometimes? Because when I think of a mentor, I'm like, oh my gosh, number one, I need to go up to them and ask if they will be my mentor. And then it's like, what if they say no? Or I'm scared to even go up and talk to them. And now I want them to be my mentor. And so it's a very overwhelming feeling for me. I don't know about you, but it's overwhelming. So I learned something recently, and I heard something, and I was like, wow, this is really fantastic. And I am no longer overwhelmed. So what I've learned is, and I want you to take this too, a mentor doesn't have to be someone that you know personally. It doesn't have to be someone you meet with every week as a one-on-one session or once a month or however it's set up. That's great if you have that. But a mentor, with the technology at our fingertips, we have mentors surrounding us everywhere. If you look up to someone, let's just say Grant Cardone, Elena Cardone, the people I look up to are them. Grant Cardone, Elena Cardone, Brandon Dawson, Natalie Dawson. Like, I look up to them greatly. I don't talk to them every week. I don't talk to them every month. I don't text them. Like, I don't, right? I'm not having sit-down meetings with them, but I look up to them greatly. And it's okay for me to say that they are my mentors, because I take in their content, I watch their content, I watch their YouTube channels, I tune into their webinars, I listen to them. So in turn, they are mentoring me, and I am learning from them. So it's okay to say that you have multiple mentors, even if you don't know them, because they are teaching you things and you are learning from them, whether it's in books. And it just stuck with me, because I'm like, wow, like I've never been able to say like, oh, this is my mentor, right? And I felt some guilt there, like, why don't I have a mentor? Why am I not spending more time doing this? But with content and technology and social media, we have tons of information being fed to us all the time. So make sure you are following the people that you look up to most. And some advice that I received from Natalie Dawson recently, there was, she did a Q&A or an Ask Me Anything on her Instagram, and someone asked, I'm not where I want to be in my career, but I want to surround myself with people that are like-minded, and how do I go about doing that, and how do I grow myself if I feel like I'm not quite there yet? And she answered something that has stuck with me greatly, and she said, when you are trying to become a new version of yourself, and you are trying to become a better version of yourself, you have to change who you are, and you have to change how you do things and how you operate your life. And who you want to be around and who you want to become, you're not there yet. And those people that are where you want to be probably don't want to hang around you yet because you're just not quite there. So it's going to be lonely for a little while. You're going to feel a little lonely because you need to take in all of the content. You need to change your routine. You need to be consistent with that routine. You need to be disciplined with that routine to become a better version of yourself. And sometimes that can seem lonely because those people, those circles, those rooms that you want to be in, you're not able to be there yet because you don't have the stats. You don't have the stats to back you up to get you in those rooms. And if you got in that room, you'd probably be very overwhelmed because you just aren't there yet. And I feel that deeply in my soul. There are so many rooms, there are so many people I look up to. And then I think to myself, if I were to be in front of them right now, if I were to have dinner with them right now, would they even take me seriously? Because I don't even know what I would talk about. What would I ask them? What kind of conversation would we have? Like, I'm Alyssa, and, I'm not being hard on myself. I'm just being honest. Like, they have accomplished way more than I have at this point in my life. Doesn't mean I'm not going to accomplish as much as they have. I'm just not there yet. So it's a little lonely right now for me because I'm taking in content, I'm learning, I'm growing, I am using people that I look up to as mentors, whether I know them yet or not, to get in those rooms. So great advice that I've received, and I've had this very head down approach since I was on here last time of I'm going to grow, I'm going to become the best version of myself, I'm going to continue crushing my goals, and it's been really beneficial for me. I am feeling fantastic, and I hope you are too. And I hope that you continue coming up and talking to me about the podcast or business or life or anything. I hope I can answer all of your questions. If you want to be a guest on the podcast and you want to showcase what you're doing in your life or your business or anything going on in the community, please reach out to us. You can reach out to Alyssa at carlrogers.com or Kenny at carlrogers.com, and we will schedule a time for you to come on. We can bring you here to our studio. We can go to your business. We can go to a cool place that you think would be beneficial. And, we will do it. Like, you just reach out to us and let us know, and we will schedule it, because I want to continue showcasing our amazing community and growing this podcast. So happy 7 years at Rogers Heating and Cooling. It has been a fantastic 7 years with lots of ups and downs, good times, bad times. I'm glad to be able to share with you all so I can be as transparent as possible on what's going on at all times. And like I said, please let us know who you want to see, what you want to hear, and we will bring it to you. So that's what I have for you. I hope you enjoyed. I always wonder when I'm just sitting here if you're bored to death or if I'm rambling, and I probably am right now. So I'm going to end it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Rogers Radio Podcast. We will see you next week, but before we do, make sure you rate, review, subscribe, like, all of the things, comment on all of the things, and we will see you next week. Bye!